Another week of America's favorite national holidays afoot. It's Zero RB Friday here on Splash Play, where today we're going to hop into Best Ball Mania 5 with $1.5 million of first place. We're going to draft some 6 Zero RB teams. I am, of course, already in a draft room here, starting a few minutes early, as we like to do, to keep people on their toes. Picking the 12 hole with a bunch of people whose names I do not know, so we will see what this room full of randos gives us here. Draft number 96 streamed for me on the year. I think draft number 40 for me in BBM. But of course, at the end of this video, we'll review my exposures as well as talk about all the things that we talk about that go along with that, including my number of entries. But this is entry number 40 for me in BBM right now. So we're on pace to hit 100 drafts on either Tuesday or Wednesday. We're on pace to draft team number 40 in BBM right now as we speak. And of course, tomorrow, a drafters draft will be coming up on stream, which will be draft number 97 or 98 on the year. Let's see what we do today. GMs, ooh, I'm on my toes, splooshing around. Yes, appreciate all you guys being here, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Zero RB Friday has one simple rule here. We don't draft a running back in the first 4 rounds, 5 rounds, maybe 6. Depends how the day goes. But we're not drafting RBs early here. And frankly, this week, I've been drafting RB early left and right. And in fact, enjoying it quite a bit, including yesterday's CMC A-Chan team I built here live on stream. Check that one out in the draft playlist. But really, I think we've been building a lot of hero RB or even bimodal RB teams this past week in BBM, which I want to do to change my portfolio a little bit. Want to try to get comfortable, being willing to soak up the advantage that sometimes you can get taking 2 running backs if they align nicely in ADP. And I feel okay with that. So now we can go back to our usual bullshit. That's basically how that goes. More GM. Shout out to all you guys being here. Our guy Chunk is here as well. Glad to see the familiar names here. And again, we'll see what happens in this rando draft room. Some badges. Really, again, this is what we're looking for here. Clean draft rooms, different draft rooms with hopefully different player preferences and all of that. So we have Arizona here, Atlanta here. No direct correlation. This is where my ranks would go. Top ADP guy would be Jahmyr Gibbs. I am low on Jahmyr Gibbs just because I really am more of a team David Montgomery guy. To me, Gibbs is not a correct pick in the 1-2 turn area. I think he should go a little bit lower. So I'm going to go Harrison and London here. And I think maybe going to set up one of my favorite builds to have in BBM right now. But we're going to take both these guys. I won't make people wait on the clock. Harrison, London, come on down. Week 11 bye, week 12 bye. There we go. Hope you're having a good night. There we go. Very nice by the Bayou Bengal Fantasy Network. Appreciate you being here. Lots of GMs around. Everybody's in a good mood. It's Friday. How can you not be? Friday in the summer. How could you be in a bad mood right now? Football-wise, what's going on out there? I didn't get to finish all my athletic article reading this morning. Wanted to read the Pittsburgh Steelers report, which once again, the headline was Russell Wilson, unquestioned QB1 and 11 more observations. I don't want to read it while I'm here on stream. But Russell Wilson, we've talked about that a lot here on stream. In particular, the athletic beat reporters have seemed like they're getting team-sourced quotes, team-sourced innuendos, basically saying that Russell Wilson is locked to his job all year long, barring injury and barring against the team completely hitting the skids and then having to make a change at QB to do it. So our normal assumption here, and I think a lot of the market's assumption, is going to be that, hey, the Steelers need to see Justin Fields at the end of the year. They have to decide what they're going to do if he's going to be the QB of the future. In reality, Russell Wilson's done everything he can to win this job politically, both in terms of the local stuff, going to Pirates games, going to Penguins games. He's also, again, endearing himself, ingratiating himself to the team as a leader and as well to the coaching staff. So Russ, better than a lot of people think he was last year, I think, in this spot for the Steelers. That's one that if you are still drafting Justin Fields, I get it for the upside, but really got to be part of a 3 QB build. And you got to be willing to eat a 0 because that looks like the most likely outcome. The bye week bros will not be outside my house with pitchforks. That's correct, because we have drafted again, not only week 14 buys for once. We'll see. Maybe we'll get some week 14 buy guys later on. I don't know. The world's our oyster. I have to tell you guys, you might be able to guess if you're really a 4D chess person, might be able to guess what I want to set up here. But there's one person that actually gave a team review this week. Of course, do 10 team reviews a month for people who hit the join button down below for $4.99 a month. Somebody had sent me a team, and I was like, that's one of my favorite builds in BBM. It doesn't have the bye week conflicts, has 2 QBs and 2 stacks I like a lot in terms of having big upside. And I would like to achieve that today, is all I'll say. But we'll see if we could set it up over the course of this next hour or so, 45 minutes or so on video. It was always Russ over can't process a defense Fields. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Fields, if he went to the right spot, like when they had that brief time window where there were reports of Justin Fields is going to go to Atlanta, going to be the Falcons' new QB, he's going to be the one that drives all these guys' success. I bought Fields a little bit because I thought there was a chance that he needed better coaching. You need, scheme to also just make it easier on you. Instead of just protecting you from yourself, you need scheme that sets you up for success. And I think that's still where Russ falls. The issue for me, or where Fields falls, the issue for me, though, is just like, I don't think he can get that with Arthur Smith. I think Arthur Smith can maybe make him the best version of a rushing QB that he's been, but I don't think he's going to make him a better passer. And that to me is the biggest issue that I see with Fields is that you really, if you're a guy that hasn't had success early on in your career, you need to go somewhere with a coach who's going to really revitalize you. Dave Canales, guy I give a lot of credit for, and I think he'll do the same thing with Bryce Young this year. Those are the guys you really want to see, the guys who've had a track record of salvaging QBs. And to me, like, Arthur Smith, I don't see that being the case. Even if he were to win the starting job day one and get all the time, I don't think that'd be the case. That's obviously me. Wide receiver, heavy start in the middle here, though Kyron and Achane went, so maybe things mostly aligned with ADP. I guess, nobody taking Diggs yet. Bit of a surprise, but have to assume Diggs will go before my pick. Devontae Smith, you can see here, again, as I mentioned with my rankings, another thing you get here when you join the channel for $4.99 a week. I'll have my updated rankings this weekend as well. Devontae Smith, I bump up because Jalen Waddle's been bumped up. To me, I think he's a more fun wide receiver to play than Jalen Waddle is, and you have to take Waddle at pick 23-ish if you're going to get him. So Devontae is one guy who does go a little bit higher for me than others, even though I'm not taking Devontae here, as you can see. Kind of a 2 picks on the clock here. Going to make it tough for me on Zero RB Friday if all the wide receivers are bled out, but we'll survive. Really just going to come up highly for some stuff, I guess. See, my next picks are picks 60 and 61. So we're in an avalanche, and we can't back down on the avalanche on Zero RB Friday. So I do love JDA's start here, getting the Rams double. All right, so Tank Dell goes. I think Tank would have been a good pick. This is still Zero RB, so we're going to take Trey McBride with one of the picks. So we have an Arizona double here, which I'm comfortable doing. Again, we're not picking for an entire wrap here, so that's why we're going to reach a little bit more than we would normally. And the logical thing to do, according to ADP, would be to come up and get Pickens or to get Higgins. I do not like either guy very much. And as I mentioned, we're trying to set some stuff up here. So we're going to go up and get Terry McLaurin instead. Big reach for Terry McLaurin. I fully admit that. At a certain point, my biases will have to stop the draft process. For right now, Terry McLaurin getting scooped on Tank Dell made that an easier choice. We have the Arizona double. We have a Week 17 Atlanta-Washington combo that I don't think occurs terribly often. No pun intended. And of course, I am one of the biggest believers in Washington. And when you leave me shitty comments about Jane Daniels, I don't think highly of you. So for anybody who does that, please be aware of it. But there we go. Seals will have to be so bad for them to make the QB switch. Russ is cooked, but Tomlin and Arthur Smith seem all in on him. I agree. I don't think it's going to be a high-octane offense or anything, but I think Russ is going to give them the potential for 2018 wins that they're looking for. So, like, that's what the Steelers want to do. It's what they've wanted to do forever. Russ coming in is just going to make him the best version of a gatekeeper kind of QB, a guy who's going to not affect things too much necessarily on offense, not going to ruin things, hopefully. He honestly showed a good amount of mobility last year that I was impressed by, especially at this stage of his career. So maybe some stuff that Arthur Smith can tap into there. But that's really, to me, with Russ. Like, I don't like Russ as a pick, but I think Russ, in terms of like holding down a starting job, I think he's got as good a shot as anybody, especially when you consider the fact that like they do have to, upgrade that trade, the draft capital in that trade for Fields if he starts more than half the year. So that becomes kind of a tough situation. Oh, we're scrolling the F down. Two Adams talking about the Steelers. Yeah, Adams love the Steelers. It's one of the biggest things that you need to know about Adams as a breed. They can't help but talk about the Steelers. But we've done a lot of Steelers talk today, and I think they are kind of like one of the more interesting teams in fantasy right now because of the fact that people so desperately want George Pickens to be a thing. And listen, if you recall last summer, I was in the bag for George Pickens as anybody at last year's ADP in that situation. In this situation where we just took Drake London, the same ADP last year, watched him bust as wide receiver 1 for Atlanta. I just don't know what we think is going to be different in Pittsburgh. Love the talent of George Pickens. Again, one of my favorite receivers overall. And also, by the way, if Hollywood Brown is going 49, I 100% stand by going McLaurin at 37. The point being for me with Pickens, like, I think that we all want him to be something, and I really wanted him to be that last year. And he became that last year. And now they have gotten even more aggressive with the coaching coming in. Is it possible that Pittsburgh and Arthur Smith, just having been relieved of the burden of being the CEO of a team, is it possible that he can be much better? I think it is possible. Is it likely? I don't think so. And with Pickens at that ADP, I think you're paying a likelihood price tag more than like a can it happen price tag. So I don't know. If Pickens is going to stay in the 40s, I just imagine I won't be there very much, to be honest. And that's me again. I cape for Pickens so hard. I shat on Pickens, on people who like bash Pickens last year, just being a go route merchant kind of guy. This year, it's just like a go route merchant. This kind of offense, I don't think is going to be, or an evolved go route merchant. It's not going to be the best, really. But we'll see. I'm more or less likely to take guys like McBride when I have MHJ and Pitts. When you have London. I really don't think so. I still take McBride a good amount unstacked. I'm not taking a lot of Pitts, mostly because he doesn't align perfectly in ADP for me with guys I want to take. But I do think if you have the Arizona double, it's appealing. I think the Atlanta double also appealing. So I would say for me, like I like both guys independently enough that I wouldn't say that I'm only getting them in stacks, especially for McBride. Like McBride, I think to me, I think he's allowed to be tight end 1 this year. Like I don't know that that's a controversial take, but where his ADP is going. But to me, like in that offense with a real vessel who's going to take some work away from him, but also going to draw attention away. And the fact that he showed the ability to get good volume last year, granted a much thinner wide receiver core. I think there's a lot of good things for McBride this year that are going his way. And the year 2 to year 3 leap is a big one, especially with a guy who did not get maybe the full complement of routes he should have gotten in his first 2 years in the league. So Pitts doesn't come back. We don't have to make an uncomfortable decision there about what to do in terms of if we want to go bully tight end with 2 tight ends early on. So we're okay with that. 0031 build as we make our 2 picks. Harrison Jr. is no longer Harrison Jr. on Underdog. Drake London, Terry McLaurin. Jaden Reed goes. Okay. What can we set up here? Just looking at the old week 16, week 17 correlation to see if there's anything I want to do in advance. And there isn't really. Man, I don't love this pocket. I'm going to go Ridley here. Not going to elaborate further beyond that at this point, other than Ridley, an okay pick as wide receiver 4. And I am going to end the 0 RB run now. Hopefully it's legally allowed to end in round 6, because I do think Mixon is a good value at this point for how I would rank him. A little bit behind his ADP. Normal ADP of 59.7, we get in 61. That's not that big of a discount, but I would have Mixon ranked, as you just saw on screen, in the mid-50s. So we take Mixon here to, again, get that bet on Houston, which I really want to have a bet on Houston in every draft I take. Mixon at running back. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, and Trey McBride. I think if Pitts had fallen back to me, which would have been a reasonable expectation, I might have gone Pitts over one of Mixon or Ridley there. And I would have gone the bully tight end because I think an Arizona-Atlanta double feels pretty good. But we have more optionality now by not doing that, because obviously if I take 2 Atlanta receivers that highly, I'm kind of locked into having to take Cousins or wanting to take Cousins. With how it is now, I can go a Jaden Daniels route with Arizona. We'll see what we do when we get back at pick 84, and we will hope that nobody gets a little over enthusiastic for Kyler along the way, but we'll see. GM to everyone except RBs. That's right, Benny. Except that now Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is one of our guys. He's coming in around 6. We'll give him a big kiss on the head and say, "Hey, Joe Mixon, you're part of the wide receiver gang here." A little bit early for a 0 RB end, I suppose, though theoretically on paper, 5 rounds without an RB is still 0 RB, so we're okay. And the bye week bros continue to be pleased. I appreciate that. Without having to give them bye week blows. That's the goal. Would take a court order for me to draft Pickens right now. Like, I'll draft Pickens. I think if Pickens is going in the late 40s, it makes more sense. I don't want to reach for him, though. If I want to, there are a lot of reasons to me to not take Pickens there. I vocalized my concerns about him. And again, this is me as somebody who's a big Pickens lover who thinks he's a very efficient receiver, a lot better than he gets credit for. It's just situational. It's just that, I don't want to make bets on Pittsburgh for anything besides running back is really the main thing. One thing I saw in one of the football newsletters I follow that we technically partner with for probably a legit football newsletter does a good job rounding up the main stories in a given day, though a little bit more delayed, I would say. Some other ones out there. But they were talking about how, I guess, the possibility looms for Najee Harris to get traded. There's some report out there saying that Jalen Warren is crushing him in camp right now. And if that's the case, that maybe he'll move on from Najee. I don't know that I buy that very much, but I'll say it out loud when we're talking about Pittsburgh stuff, because I don't know when else there would be the case to bring that up. But Najee Harris, yeah, we'll see. I think still a good 0 RB pick. I think there's a little bit of wish casting for him to get traded because of the fact people want to see him go to Dallas or something like that, to see him move on somewhere else in the hopes that he can, be the bell cow back they think he is. In reality, he's kind of a mid back and very lucky to have the role he has in Pittsburgh. Obviously, if he were somehow to get traded, and I don't know who would do that. I don't know what the draft capital will be. We're probably talking like 4th round pick, maybe conditional 4th rounder. I feel like for a guy like Najee, if he were to get traded, obviously Jaylen Warren at 90 would be a huge deal. Not something I expect to happen again. I think that's in the realm to me of like the IU getting traded stuff. We're talking probably 10% outcomes, but Najee's been bad enough. They didn't pick up his option. Maybe a little bit of smoke there. I feel like I only want Pickens at a turn with either Kelsey or Worthy in Hollywood. I think that's fair. I think it's a fair tiebreaker. So Kyler goes 76, which is obviously a downer, not a smart thing to do to take an unstacked Kyler, given how often Kyler is going to be paired with at least one of McBride or Harrison Jr. But Burgundy Bets did it, so we will not get Kyler in this draft. And again, to spoil what I think is the most fun thing to do in a draft, I think it's an Arizona-Washington stack because you don't have the Week 14 buy stuff like you have when you put Houston with a Jaden Daniels, like you have when you put Lamar with a Jaden Daniels, AR with a Jaden Daniels. That's the main thing to me. But really, Arizona-Washington, if you can get it and people aren't idiots in your draft room and snipe Kyler Murray from you with a double stack, you'll be doing okay. But instead, we'll have to make a bet on Kyler beating out on Jaden Daniels beating out Kyler, which we can do as well. Annoying, but I'm not going to tilt. I'm tilting a little bit more, I guess, inside. But I don't want to let it out yet. I'm not in the mood to be in a bad mood. All right, picks coming up here. My God. Wide receivers been bled out in this room. Good pocket to take RB. All right. Guy, we got to risk put in this fucking room that's taking guys completely uncorrelated. I really don't know that I want to push Jaden all the way to his normal ADP. It's not going to be the first pick, though. God, wide receiver is fucking dead. You know what? I'm taking Jaden with one of these picks. Sue me. Jaden in the mid-80s, where he should be priced right now, not where he's priced. He's going to be one of the picks here. Sorting by ADP, it's insane that I'm getting sniped on shit and players are going at stupid points and there's no values. Like, that's the part in this draft that's really killing me right here. But Jaden, we got that done. We're not going to sweat him out coming to 103. Just nothing that's a fun bet here. I think the most fun bet's DeAndre Swift. You're going to take Ramondre, though. Ramondre, I don't want to be blind to in an offense that I do expect to have a lot of run game production. I had also hoped that we'd have a chance of getting one of the Tennessee receivers back to keep me live for a Tennessee double. But DeAndre Hopkins goes to 74 here. Just like everything went early besides running backs, and running backs aren't at a discount. Like a tough combo of events here. We'll persevere. God damn it. Don't blame me on the Jaden Reach stack at the end. It's tough to clean stacks. Yeah, I mean, we have the bet. So we have the bet on Atlanta and Arizona. We lost the chance to have our Arizona coordinated bet. We got to leave with something coordinated, especially because, again, like this pick doesn't make sense. Like it's not a good pick to take Kyler Murray in the mid 70s ahead of ADP when you don't have any part of Arizona. But people are doing some shit that's not ideal here. So I'm not going to risk Jaden. If somebody goes, oh, he runs a lot, I could take him unstacked. I don't want that in this room. That's my logic. Pickens over Terry. I mean, I guess would you rather make a bet on Cliff Kingsbury taking all the principles of LSU or a bet on Arthur Smith? Because that's fundamentally what the bet is. I'd rather make the bet on Cliff Kingsbury stealing everything he can from LSU. 2 week 14 buys for RB is, well, tough to see. Tough to see. But I didn't realize New England is a bye week 14 team as well. I guess that makes it even tougher. So 2 guys we talked about, in that week 14 stuff, or didn't talk about in the week 14 stuff. So we do have the guys we mentioned before. You have AR, you have Lamar, you have CJ Stroud, you have Jaden Daniels on a bye. You also have your 2 bailout QBs later, potential bailout QBs with Bo Nix and I guess Jacoby Brissett / Drake May. All those guys are week 14 buys. So I didn't realize that New England was a week 14 buy as well, because it's not usually a part of my concern, but that is something to note as well, that you can't get your elite QBs, your guy who can be elite in Jaden, and you also can't get your bailout guys late, unless it's Bryce Young. There you go. More Pickens for all of you guys. Have fun drafting your Pickens. I have to tell you though, like, if you watch any video last year, there was nobody more in the bag for somebody, for George Pickens in particular, than I was last year. For it to be flipping like this, like, I'm not coming into this one blind. I like what Pickens represents a lot. The coaching change is a really big deal there. And the fact too that, like, they brought in enough guys that can carve away, 15 to 20% target per out run rates. Like, Pickens' true ceiling is going to be, there's no real talent around him, and an offense is going to want to chuck the ball downfield a lot. Smith is going to run the ball a lot and occasionally chuck it semi downfield. It's like, it's not Pickens' style. And then I will add on to the fact, like, Pickens not going out of his way to work with Russ, away from the team at all. Like, that's something a lot of guys in that wide receiver room did. Pickens last year was bitching about his role. There's a lot of bad there. I think Pickens and T. Higgins, conveniently both guys in a similar ADP range, they're both very live to be like dynamite in your teams, and not in a good way. Like, those guys can really become mercurial and toxic in a way that I don't think people fully grasp. But we'll see. We'll see. I prefer making the bet on the more talented guy with the higher ceiling. I don't know what tells you that Pickens has a higher ceiling than Terry McLaurin, who's regularly put up in his career, has put up a lot of like 150-yard plus games. I mean, Pickens, again, you're making me bash Pickens, which I don't want to do. I want to bash Arthur Smith. But like, you're taking a guy who's like has a history of being unhappy, a guy who is going to be in an offense that really runs the risk of making him unhappy on a weekly basis, in a situation where he now should be the unquestioned star receiver. Like, I think you're really not. I get the Georgia bias for our guy Adam. He is a very biased Georgia fan, but like, the Georgia part of it doesn't matter now. We're talking year 3 in the league, and maybe he makes a big leap up in talent or skill results, as many guys do in year 1, year 2, year 3. But like, the situation is not there for him. Like, at a certain point, the ADP should acknowledge situation, and it is not right now with Pickens in the high 40s, or the lower part of the 40s in ADP. Funny says Pickens and T both have similar skill sets. I think T is a little bit better of a route runner, but yeah, similar guys. We're going to go up and get it kind of thing. Contested catch guys. Like, T's skill set is more, I mean, he probably ages into being a less juice than DeAndre Hopkins is where I think Higgins is going. Higgins the last year though, like, that really spooked me on Higgins as well. The fact that he didn't get the contract, played significantly worse than the year before, and then now we have another year of him not getting the contract. Wouldn't shock me if T showed up to camp not in shape. Like, I think there's a lot of things that T is going to do this year. We'll see. It's all speculation point, but obviously we're in a June draft. It's going to be speculation. Pickens hated Canada. Imagine how he's going to feel about Arthur Smith. Yep, that's a good way to look at it, but people are going to put their blinders on. I trust me, man. I love Pickens very much. I cape for that guy a lot. And the face of people really fucking made it like, oh, you're an idiot. Like, yeah, okay. But this year, I'm going the way I'm going. All right, so Ryan Robinson would be good, though he's also a week 14 bye. I'm still going to take him, though, for one of these picks. Think we can make up receiver a little bit later on, which, again, feels weird for a 0 RB Friday, but I like Tyjae Spears. I'm not getting him a lot at ADP. I think he's a better pick than Javonte, who's just coming up primarily because of the fact that there was a knee scope for Audric Estime, and it's not a reason for him to come up. It's not making Javonte a better play, really, especially with Estime going to be back in July. And McLaughlin getting more positive quotes than Javonte is. So 2 things here, which anyway, going to put me on Tyjae Spears for the bet on Tennessee. So again, we have a correlated bet on Tennessee with Calvin Ridley and Tyjae Spears. We have Atlanta, Washington going. We have our Arizona double after getting sniped on Kyler Murray, and we'll see what else we get from Washington. And we got to get some running backs who do not have week 14 buys besides Tyjae Spears, but we'll figure that out later on in the draft. It's obviously going to be a 6 RB team, most likely, so we'll figure that out. It's strange that Adam would feel so strongly about a Georgia player. Yes, it is odd to see our guy Adam, of course, in the bag for Georgia, and that's what the copium of like a team thing will do, of huffing from the paint cans of your team is like, you'll then talk yourself into Arthur Smith being the guy who's going to uncap the ceiling for George Pickens, which I don't know how you could see what happened for Drake London for 2 straight years, a guy who's one of the best guys against man coverage, who's one of the best guys beating press coverage. He couldn't figure out what to fucking do with him. It's not a good scene for Pittsburgh, but I'll stand by that. We don't need to harp on it all video. If he just plays in contract year, no, it should be motivation to not be out of shape or pout, etc. I don't know, man. I don't know that I feel that about T. From everything I've seen from T so far, and also just what the Bengals do, especially if they pay Chase, like you are going to deal with the most toxic version of T. Higgins, and that's the way too in the modern NFL. Like how you try to get what you want is you like drag your feet. Maybe he shows up and does a hold in kind of thing when things get mandatory. We'll see what happens with that. But anyway, the T. Higgins and Pickens to me, just two guys I hate in that range because I think they really are. They're the receivers who who you grew up with, who will ruin a team on the way to them not getting what they want, or as a symptom of them not getting what they want. Are people aware how bad Matt Canada was? I get Arthur Smith as a stench, but like Matt Canada, did you watch Arthur Smith as an OC for Tennessee? Like, again, it'll be good for the run game. That's it. Anyway, we don't need. I feel like the viewers are dropping off because of dwelling on shit teams because Adam doesn't agree with me. But anyway, those are the takes. We'll move on. Guys, we're about 25 minutes in here. Not sure if today's going to be a 2-draft day or not, but please do hit that like button. Please do hit that subscribe. Again, if nothing else, I'm willing to debate this stuff with you guys and talk about it. I'm going to view things the way I do. I'm willing to hear other opinions and see if they sway me enough into something. But ultimately, you're going to get the takes here that I land about earnestly by using advanced analytics, by using data, by using all these things to put it together, information, team news, all the stuff that you have to do. I like yesterday, I actually gave a reply tweet to the Coach Speaking Next guy because he posted a clip about Donovan Peoples-Jones, basically talking about how Donovan Peoples-Jones, like the quotes from Dan Campbell were saying something to the effect of DPJ is like, he's a guy, he's in the room, like he's working hard, he's going to push for competition. Like the quote was really pretty threadbare compared to talking about Khalif Raymond, where he says, hey, this guy's always going to be in the mix, just depends how many routes we give him. And then talking about Jameson Williams is like, he's a number 2, he's the man on a mission, all that stuff. The quote was like pretty pronounced for DPJ. And I will say for Coach Speaking Next, much like what we do here, like I'm going to try to parse out everything I can. I'm going to try to see everything I can to help inform my takes. And a lot of what I do is based on that and stuff like the Pickens stuff, not to dwell on that again. But it's like, when you see a guy not working out with the QB, like that's a thing last year I saw. Watson didn't work out with Love. Dobbs did. You know what happened? Dobbs started fast. Watson did not. And it took a while even for Watson to earn trust in that offense. So, obviously that goes hand in hand with Watson being banged up, Watson having the hamstring thing to start the year. But like, it doesn't matter. Like some of the stuff does matter. So that's why I think, not just carrying priors and adapting the situation is the most important part you can do. Bale King is asking, Bale King or Bale King or Bali King? I don't know. I can't see your name perfectly. Is Gabe Davis a good pick this year? Because the font kind of blurs it together. Is Gabe Davis a good pick this year? No. Dotson goes to this guy. Fucking no reason. Really would have liked Jahan Dotson on this team, given that we started a little bit behind at wide receiver, but that is okay. We will survive. I'll talk more about the chat in a second, but Gabe Davis is like a player. Brian Thomas is much more talented. Kirk and Ingram actually are weapons underneath. Gabe Davis is probably a guy on the wrong side of his career who's not as talented as Brian Thomas. I think we need to get receivers in. We're going to take Xavier Leggett. And given what I just said about Gabe Davis, he would be a logical wide receiver 6 for this team, given the correlation that we have. Cousins, Eckler falling behind ADP. Is there a world where both Washington guys can get there? There probably is, but I don't want them on the same team when I have this many week 14 buys. Oh, God. All right. Losing fucking Dotson really hurts. We're going to take Zeke here, who does not have a week 14 bye, and will hopefully give us some production in week 14. Zeke in a split backfield with Rico Dowdle, probably the goal line back, you would guess. Zeke given the quotes, the generic quotes about being a guy who is going to help the team out and do whatever the team needs to do, which is basically what you want to hear from Zeke. So he's doing what he's got to do. Even Gabe Davis himself says, don't do it. Gabe goes here at 136. Reaching for Gabe never feels good. And frankly, I think Zeke was a better pick and Leggett was probably a better pick, though Leggett is falling a little bit because of his hamstring woes this time of year. Love Daniels and Terry, but I don't get the Terry in round 3 personally. It's because I don't just fucking went out. When you fucking watching the stream, man? I don't like Pickens. I don't like T. I don't want to reach for Kirk. So Christian Kirk. Those were the 3 options that would have not been Terry. So I took Terry. I'm going to keep taking Terry. You guys cannot believe in Terry. I understand. I hear enough from the Terry McLaurin doubters. You'll be bathed in the blood, et cetera, et cetera. Terry McLaurin streaming through the streets, killing you like what's the guy from God of War? Kratos gonna be doing that to you. So Terry McLaurin will do. I don't know what else to tell you. Close your eyes and click Zeke. It's going to be a common theme this summer. I'm clicking him wide open eyes, man. I think Zeke's a decent pick at that range, especially as part of a 0 RB build, especially if he's going to be your RB4, RB5. He's got touchdown equity. It's really all we need in this offense. Work meeting's got me busy this Friday, but you know that I love and miss you all, and I hate work. That is all. There we go. Shout out to our guy Tyler, of course. Busy week of streaming as well for him. Check out whatever the streams. I think he did Neil's, did the Fantasy Sanctuary one. Maybe did the Pound. I don't keep up with everything, but I think those were all the ones. All the plugs for Tyler for the week. Mooney goes at 144. Maybe could have made a case to reach for Mooney over Leggett, and then I could have done Kirk with that. But I wanted Zeke more for this RB room just to have a guy I think will give me production and is on a week 14 bye. So that's how that goes. Man, it's funny. I don't enjoy what this room has given me today. Between all the snipes and people taking players for no particular reason. Not been a great spot for me to get my guys, but it will persevere. Maybe, does it increase or decrease the odds of me doing a second draft? I'm not sure how that goes, because I tend to think when the first draft kind of kicks me in the dick, I just want to go, all right, let's pack up the bag and call it a day. But we'll see how that goes. Marshawn Lloyd going at 146 here, a better price tag. Still think that Lloyd should be going more so. I think he should be going around Charbonnet. At this point, with people's concern about Kyron Williams, even though Kyron is back at practice and moving around, doing some drills on the side, people want to keep steaming up Blake Corum. I get that part. I would say that Marshawn Lloyd should be like right there, right behind Blake Corum. And he's probably got more of a role week one, I would guess, than Blake Corum will. Assuming that Kyron is healthy and able to go. Am I taking more Zeke than Dowdle? Yes, I am. Dowdle's okay. I'll take Dowdle in particular if I have some Philly correlation and I want to get something, or if I'm just dead at running back and I need an RB5. I think that's where Dowdle makes more sense. To me, they shouldn't be priced the same. I get why they would be, because it's theoretically an ambiguous backfield for these guys coming in, or coming in without Tony Pollard. But I think that Zeke's a better player and a more trusted player, and I think he's going to get the goal line work, which is obviously going to be the most valuable part of the equation. But, you can make they're the same bet, functionally for most people. If you don't have a lean on them, they're the same bet, or should be treated as the same bet. Zeke keeps falling to me at 150. I have almost 30%. That's a lot of Zeke. But if you're going to get him at 150, great. I think his price tag to me is true price tags in the 120s. All right, so we have a 1551 here. Still have to get our QB2, though I think we have one that would make sense for the team right now. Sinnett's got to be one of these picks because we got scooped on the Dotson correlation, and we do want to build out a little more Jaden. Still need a tight end too. Probably gonna have a lot of McBride Sinnett teams this year, which I hope goes swimmingly. For the second pick here, no correlation with Matthew Stafford we can get at this point. That would be fun. Though he would represent the oppo side of Arizona, but I just don't think that makes sense to go for. Bet on New England doesn't make sense because we have Ramondre. It's not a great pocket again. Then take Ray Davis here. Ray Davis, I think, will make me done at RB. We have to stick receiver late with a few guys, which will hopefully be okay. We have a 1652 right now. We have Joe. All right, so let's give the team a read here and try to recenter myself to stick the landing. We've got Jaden Daniels at QB, Joe Mixon, Ramondre, Brian Robinson Jr., who's one of the rare guys who kept his junior in this recent name update that all the sites have gotten. Tyjae Spears, Ezekiel Elliott, and Ray Davis as my RB6. I like the room. I think it's got good upside. I think Davis as well, the guy who should hit his stride when some of these top guys are on bye. So I'm okay with it. And he might be the goal line back from week one. We're low at receiver, though we did take a lot of talent early on. So we took Harrison Jr., Drake London, Terry McLaurin, had to reach for him because wide receiver was bled out, couldn't get Tank Dell, and Calvin Ridley, along with Xavier Leggett. Then we have Trey McBride and Ben Sinnott at tight end. So we need a second QB. We need some more receivers. We're probably done at running back. Could take one as a quote-unquote luxury, perhaps. I think we're done at tight end as well. And Bucky goes, so my temptation at running back will not be there anyway on the way back. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We're all missing out on not drafting the real Dallas RB, Hunter Lupke, and then also somebody who was always Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn's getting slot receiver reps now, which are also not good for him because he's not actually a good pass catcher. I'll never forget last year, and I know there are a couple guys in chat who did cape for Deuce Vaughn. That was one that I said he had no shot, and he ended up having no shot, though he did make my DraftKings finalist team in the Millie Maker on there, which was fucking insane. That's the one share I had of Deuce Vaughn. So I guess you could say my finals advance rate with Deuce Vaughn last year was impeccable. So if you want to give him any cover, you can give Deuce Vaughn that. Just tune in when happened this draft. Life happened, I suppose. It was a wide receiver avalanche early on, so that's the big part of it. I ended up having to take Trey McBride as one of the, well, I didn't have to take, but tried to set up an Arizona double. Then we got sniped for an unstacked Kyler over somewhere here. Yeah, this asshole. Took unstacked Kyler, then he paired him with James Conner. Like, it's a bet, but it's not the kind of bet you reach for in ADP. Anyway, I said that before anyway. Obviously annoyed about that. As a result, couldn't trust these guys to not push back Jaden Daniels to 100 range here. So had to take Jaden at 84. It's been a series of disasters, really. But what are we going to do? Fucking Demarcus Robinson goes to Burgundy Bets, which was one player that I would have loved to have taken on the way back. I am just getting cut to death by this room right now. It's very frustrating, but we'll survive. Makes you think Deuce can't catch passes. He was awful in college at everything. He just got a lot of volume in college. He's a really bad back. I'm not going to go into the numbers again, but he's not good is really the main thing. He can't avoid tackles. If you're 5'5" and you can't avoid tackles, you're just not a player in the NFL. He shouldn't have been a player. He got there through nepotism and the fact that he got volume in college is really what Deuce Vaughn is. One of the Pete's doing his own streams this year. That's just me solo this year. So if you want to go watch Pete's channel, feel free to go check him out. He's doing enough streams for himself and does a great job with them. So please go support Pete. 1652 here. Some logical bets that we could make. I would honestly be okay taking Wilson and McCaffrey. The issue is I need that QB2, and Will Levis is my QB2. So we're going to take Will Levis as one of the picks, and we're going to take McCaffrey as the other pick for the Jaden double or the Jaden triple and the Will Levis double. So Will Levis, pick 1, McCaffrey, pick 2. If I really wanted to play it diamond hand style, I could have taken Wilson and McCaffrey, really increased my Arizona bet while increasing the bet on Washington, which can help you out when you're a little bit dead in receiver. Just take correlated bets at receiver then. The team so far, though, is a 2-6-6-2. We have Jaden Daniels and Will Levis as QB, which is not a common duo for me, I have to say that. Joe Mixon, Ramondre Stevenson, Brian Robinson Jr., Tyjae Spears, Ezekiel Elliott, and Ray Davis. The RB room is really good unless you want to really worry about the 3 week 14 buys, but that's not the kind of thing I would sweat too much. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Xavier Leggett, Luke McCaffrey, a wide receiver. So obviously I think these last few rounds have to be receiver based on how this board looks. And then tight end, Trey McBride and Ben Sinnott. No bye week conflicts there, so we're okay. Just that guy fucking taking Kyler really fucked this team up. If the guy hadn't taken Kyler, we would have had the double stack I wanted. Also, if somebody hadn't taken DeAndre Hopkins, I could have gotten a real Tennessee double, which I think would have made me feel better. Just a lot of things got scooped here in a way that were not the most helpful. He's a lucky leprechaun indeed. He's a lucky leprechaun. Yeah, he just really, like, the worst numbers in college you could think were ever possible. Like, truly is what he had last year. So that's it to me for him. Like, last year was what the deal was. His NFL numbers last year, let's look at what he did with his limited amount of touches, which won't matter that much, but if I can be mean to Deuce Vaughn some more, maybe it'll make me feel better. Deuce Vaughn last year. Okay, so it's even better than I would have thought. Deuce Vaughn, every time you gave Deuce Vaughn a rush, I mean, he didn't have a ton, just to be candid about that. He had 3.8 rushes per game while playing only 9 games on the year. So, wait, is that correct? No, 6 games on the year. So Deuce Vaughn, a negative 0.5 EPA per rush. So every time you gave Deuce Vaughn the ball, he basically said, give me a half point of what this drive is worth to the team. That's really bad for a running back. His avoided tackle rate, was 0. He didn't avoid a tackle. Any of the touches he got, which is pretty hard to do. He did have a 0.01 EPA per pass. So he did have that going for him. And for what it's worth, every time Deuce Vaughn was on the field, they tried to give him a touch for the most part. By running back standards, a little bit low, but 39% intended touch per rep is what he had. So They were trying to give him the ball. I don't know. Just negative 0.5 EPA per rush is like real bad though. I got to say, that's bad to a level that you should really never think about Deuce Vaughn again. And a 0% avoided tackle rate. Like if you're a running back, you're going to fall ass backwards to avoiding a tackle at some point. So that's how that goes. The dumb shit who took Kyler Murray goes for Greg Dortch over Michael Wilson, 60 pots past ADP. Even Michael Wilson's going to be the outside receiver playing in a lot more snaps. Again, just bad picks by the 4-hole here that have greatly affected my team. The Jeremy of today's draft is Burgundy Bets. So thank God he's not stalking me in the same way. It's like Tank Bigsby. Yeah, Tank was really bad too. But at least Tank is a normal size. And you know what? Tank Bigsby, as bad as he was, negative 0.2 EPA per rush. The passing was the issue for him because he gave up 2 interceptions on targets to him. But negative 2.6 EPA per pass. So when you targeted Tank Bigsby in the pass game last year, you basically were giving away a field goal. So that's it's not good either. But his rushing EPA was twice as good as Deuce Vaughn. So if you want to compare, you want to say Tank Bigsby's the worst back in football, Deuce Vaughn is twice as bad. Do you think Burgundy Bets is actively griefing me or just drafting bad bets? I mean, he drafted, like, the team made sense for him. I just don't think it's, like, a good drafter. I don't know. I've seen his name before. He never stood out to me until today, kind of negatively affecting my team. I don't know. Could just be he's not making good picks this year, trying to do player takes that are not the best. Saw the Dortch quote and was like, oh, it's Kyler Murray thinks he'd be a top 5 receiver if he were a foot taller. And that's enough for him. That'd be my guess. All right, Rondale Moore goes. He would have also been, I think, fairly logical. Man. McMillan or Trey? McMillan getting some positive camp reports, though it is with a lot of guys not playing. We'll take a shot at McMillan for Tampa Bay, Carolina correlation at receiver. Really don't know that I have enough faith in Will Levis and a 2 QB build, but I also would like an 8th receiver, I think. Could just make a bet, honestly, on Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan to make a bet on just, somebody gets traded there or just capture the touchdowns that don't go to Mike Evans and Godwin. I think that makes sense to me. Though Hyatt's running with the first team, Hyatt may be a little bit undervalued for me. So Jalen Hyatt's going to be my wide receiver 8. I've liked Hyatt before. I think that for Hyatt, the fact that he's running with the first team and getting red zone targets is a really good sign for his usage this year. That is with Slayton getting up to speed, though, so that could be part of why. We have a 2-6-8-2 is going to be the final build here. We'll give it a read. We've got Jaden Daniels and Will Levis at QB. Obviously, 2 guys for me that one guy I feel very strongly about. I like the other guy. I don't mind so much, but I'm not the biggest fan of. We have Joe Mixon, Ramondre Stevenson, Brian Robinson Jr., Tyjae Spears, Ezekiel Elliott, and Ray Davis at running back. I think the RB room is pretty good. Really, that's nothing else to say. Only thing you can critique me on if you want to is week 14 buys, but I can't sweat that. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Xavier Leggett, Luke McCaffrey, and then the Jalen McMillan and Jalen Hyatt. So 2 Jalen's late. How could you pass up Jalen's? At tight end, we have Trey McBride and Ben Sinnott. So that's an interesting team there. Yeah, Shepard just signed. He couldn't play for the Giants when he also was like Daniel Jones' favorite guy. So I don't think that's the thing to worry about at this point. Either way, though, we're already in a draft room. We're doing 2 today. So it looks like we will hit draft number 100 on stream here on Tuesday. But this is draft number 97 for me, streamed on the year. Another BBM, draft number 6. And against my better instincts, after getting, again, fucking sniped to death, I was really cut by a lot of different drafters in that room. We're going to try to get the perfect 0 RB team here. And if nothing else, I think I should just spam wide receivers, and I'll feel good about the team through that. So here we go. Sterling Shepard sounds like complete dust. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Landed the plane nicely. I would say landed the plane serviceably, but I appreciate the kind words, Broncos. Could have been a better team. Draft 100, baby. We got Draft 100 coming up on Tuesday. It's going to be the thing because we'll have 1 draft tomorrow for drafters, 1 more on Monday, getting steamrolled by Pete and the circus being in town. And then Tuesday, we'll close it out with draft. Well, we'll close it out. We'll continue the fucking hunt with draft number 100. And the goal is going to be to have 200 drafts by the end of it all. So we'll see what happens. I mean, probably more than that. But we'll see how many we get here on stream. If I had to guess, probably going to be closer to 250, but who knows? All right, so Okay, okay, we're gonna have some fun here. So Bijan goes 3, Lamb goes 1. We don't end up getting a huge discounted result. This guy getting Hill at 5, probably the biggest discount. But Jefferson, who's now got a 5.3 ADP, I'll take him at 6. So Jefferson normally going behind or going ahead of Jamar Chase now. We'll get him at pick 6 here. So Jefferson, one of my favorite players in a draft. A guy to me who, in terms of the talent, and also I would say I've never heard more flowery quotes about him than this week. Granted, they just paid him the most money ever at receiver, but his coaches talking positively about him, his teammates talking positively about him, how he deserves this deal, how he's one of the best guys I've ever been in a locker room with. All the stuff about Jefferson that, frankly, I don't know that I heard quite as much in recent years. Saw the talent on the field and willing to buy in on that. But Jefferson, to me, going at 6, I just don't think he should be going behind Chase very often. I get it. Guy Nez here, of course, with the Badge Bros. I'm sure doing some drafts today later on. Haven't been in every single stream, so haven't heard your Lad McConkey takes. Curious to think about that leader and prospects as a thought leader. Am I a thought leader? Or is he a thought leader? For him, I think he's an okay prospect. My concern for him is that he's better out of the slot. Like at Georgia, people talk about, oh, he can play out wide. Well, fucking Jonathan Taylor at 12. Hopefully this is going to lead to some value for me in this room. McConkey's issue is that, so Palmer already... Adams at okay, so hopefully we get some value back. Hopefully it doesn't get siphoned away from me. So Lad, the big issue is he's a slot guy fundamentally. So inherently he should be playing behind the guys who can play out wide, like Chark, like Quentin Johnson. Josh Palmer can play out wide or inside. He knows Justin Herbert better. I think those are blockers for Lad McConkey. Lad's a great athlete, a very good route runner. All the film guys love him on that. I think he's okay at ADP. He's my least favorite pick out of him, Keon Coleman, and Brian Thomas Jr. But I think if you're going to play him, you got to take him out that ADP. So that's basically it. But to me, his best case outcome is Christian Kirk. And Christian Kirk's going in the 40s, I guess. But no touchdown equity is what I expect for Lad. But in my mind, I think he's fancy Hunter Renfrow, but the good version of Hunter Renfrow. It's a more crowded wide receiver room and a low pass rate over expectation offense there, you would think. So those are the big concerns for me. All right, so we're pick 19 here. Brandon Ayuk would normally be the ADP pick here. And I think we're just going to do that. I love Nico. I think I'm getting enough Nico at this point. Ayuk a bet on a guy who I guess he could hold out longer. Maybe the ADP falls, but talent-wise should be there. Shout out to guy Nez for gifting a membership here. I appreciate that. Of course, check out Nez's work on the Badge Bros. I think pretty much every single day or every weekday at the very least. But I've been checking out some Nez streams lately as well. The mutual love. I appreciate it very much. At some point, we got to cross over again. I feel like I didn't reply to one of Roto Run's DMs back a year ago because I was just swamped. And then I haven't done a Badge Bros since. We need to do a crossover at some point with the boys. Isn't BBM all about touchdown equity? Yeah. I mean, it's not all about touchdown equity, but touchdown equity matters a lot more in half-point PPR. So you can make the case that, yeah, it's all about that. But it's still about guys your guys like a Lad or a Christian Kirk or whatever. I've said it before, I think Christian Kirk reliably is going to give you 7 catches for 80 yards this year. In terms of, half-point PPR, then you're talking about 12 points a game there, and he's going to get a touchdown occasionally to give you the 19. I think a lot of weeks you're looking at 12. Is that 12 going to help you out? Probably. The 12 points will help you out to have that 12 points, some amount of reliability. But ultimately that's one of the big issues I have with him and Evan Ingram is that Brian Thomas is a red zone threat. They give ATN enough red zone touches. I think Tank can take some red zone work away. They have enough things there now that maybe can cut at the touchdown equity for Kirk even more or Ingram even more than you'd expect. And that's what I do expect. So that's it. And as a stream that starts in 19 minutes. Oh no. All right. Well, sometimes the boys have to compete. That's how it goes. We all get smoked by Pete Overzet. It's really, I saw the Lowell stream with Neil Orfield. Enjoyed that stream with those two guys. The oldest man to do 150 drafts, Neil Orfield, has been the promise for him. All right, so we have DJ Moore a little bit past ADP. Laporta for elite tight end, which would be kind of fun. Obviously, just taking wide receiver is never going to be a bad time either. Let's see what this room does at tight end. Maybe this room just doesn't like elite tight ends, and they're willing to let Sam Laporta fall all the way back to pick 43 because no tight ends have gone yet. So let's hope and pray. So we have Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, and DJ Moore. I don't expect to get Laporta back, but to get Laporta at 43 would I think make that entire last draft of people just stabbing me in the neck. They would make it more, make it feel like it was worth it. So we'll give that a shot, and we'll see what this room does. I don't think we're getting Laporta back, but would be nice. Would be nice. Oh, baseball in the Badge Bros today. There we go. So they do diversify pretty well. I saw they're doing some WNBA drafts the other day. So the boys are the ones who have you covered. If you do want to do any sort of tournament on Underdog, that's not just NFL. Of course, if you want NFL, here I am laboring every day. Sam Laporta goes at 35 to Crash Rich. There we go. We knew good things can't happen. we knew that magic isn't going to happen in this room, but it's okay. Of course, you see my ranks on screen. If you do ever want to know my player takes, I do give blurbs for every player, over 250 guys as well. If you hit the join button down below, $4.99 a month. I think it is both a useful tool if you want to draft off of my rankings, just to know where I value guys, but more so you can just read it like an almanac. Like I update blurbs every week based upon the things that I've seen, based upon having to move a guy in ADP. I will talk about why I'm moving a guy to a certain spot. So that's really the process there, which I think adds a lot of value. Even, I don't know if you guys can tell me if it does enough for your individual processes, but I tried to do enough there to make it worth your time and worth the $5 that really is not. It's not a lot of money, but I know it's a lot to make any sort of payment to a content creator. I get it. And Spags adds blurbs and enough people ask. Yeah, there we go. I did add one for Eric Alt. I did. I did indeed. Eric All, whatever his last name is. All right, so we have Minnesota, San Francisco, Chicago. Got a couple guys between us here. I think this is a Lamar team. Again, sticking with my no picking stance. It's not a discount on Lamar, but we'll see what we can get with Lamar. So Lamar at QB here. Week 14 bye. I didn't go up for Terry again. So the people who you're too exposed to Washington, but yeah, we're fine. We'll survive. And we'll see if maybe we can get Mark Andrews back at 54. Though knowing the room, Mark Andrews will go at some point in these next 10 picks. Eric Alt, right? There we go. I don't know his political beliefs. Great target earner, though. Got to give him credit for that. Mark Andrews goes at 45. This guy, though, it makes sense. Houston, Baltimore. So that's the risk you run. We'll have an unstacked Lamar. We'll have to keep some wide receiver lights on for dog shit Rashad Bateman in the 150s, or maybe slightly less dog shit Tez Walker in the 180s. But that's it. That's a very kind word by Chunk. You're the first and only content creator I've ever subscribed to, for what it's worth. I appreciate that. That's actually very nice to hear. Look, I think I do the best I can to add value. I know Chunk's taking some team reviews, but you get 10 team reviews a month for me, which you get through but DMing me privately on Discord. I'll also answer some questions if you want to in between that. I also give you my rankings updated weekly, and you do get a VIP Discord, the Squirt Squad channel, which now is like, I don't even have to say stuff. There's conversations going on in there, people sharing teams, people talk about different tournaments. So check it out for yourself. Mathology talking about getting mothers of a sports team topless was what I said. So there's a lot going on in that chat. That's what I promise you. If you hit the join button down below for $4.99 a month. Of course, you get the reading of names too coming up at the end of the video, where I'll read everybody's name as a paying member coming up at the end of this one, along with my exposures coming up at the end. That's really nice too. Steel City Blue, same thing. Same thing for Robert Griffin III and Adam. All right. Well, good. I'm glad I've sufficiently guilted the fine community here into paying their shekels to be members, but thank you for that. It's nice to hear. Your memberships go a long way. It does. It keeps at least, nothing else keeps me motivated to keep doing the work. Keenan Allen being here is a nice pick. I do want to get more Pacheco though, really, but at this point, whatever. We're doing 0 RB. We're doing Keenan Allen here. We got the double for Chicago. Caleb Williams, not a week 14 bye, as you can see by these two guys having week 7 buys. So we are very live for a Caleb stack with Lamar, which feels pretty fun. Would have been more fun, I think, to get Lamar and Mark Andrews on the team. It's not a common duo I go to. I feel like that's the sharp drafters go to of like, oh, I'll take Lamar here and I'll get Lamar back. I'll get Mark Andrews back. Or I guess the vice versa seems to happen in some rooms too. I think Pete and Corain did a draft recently where they took Mark Andrews first, and then that basically boxed out everybody from taking Lamar. So maybe I should have done it that way, though in this room, I would not have had the faith. Maybe they wouldn't have taken Lamar as well. Oh, good point. Lamar's an RB. It's true. It's what everybody says. The best passing year he's had, though. Yeah, whatever. Pacheco can come later, plenty of drafts. That's true. To me, Pacheco, though, is really undervalued. In terms of the Spags rankings, the data version of it, not the ones that I do by hand, which you get with the membership here. There's a data version of it that I do in season that is pretty valuable for me to identify guys who are doing well in terms of adding value via the EPA metrics, getting volume, getting red zone volume in particular is a big part of it. And Pacheco is one of those guys who graded out really well for me last year. And now you don't have Jerick McKinnon there. You just have CEH, quote unquote, threatening for touches. I think it's a pretty good sign for Pacheco. So I'm a little bit like lower on Pacheco than I should be just because of that. Like he kind of falls this dead zone back to me where like I hate ATN as a play. I like Pacheco as a play. I like Jacobs as a play. If they're going to go 55, 58, I'll get a lot more of them. I could say that. But RBs have just been pushed down in this room a lot. Like this is really cheap for Cook too. Interesting room. Can't believe I have to take Bateman in this fucking draft. Like I have to take Bateman or Tez or likely. The worst version of the Baltimore stack is like that nothing one where you're just tacking it on in the hopes that somebody can get there. Really hate that version of the Baltimore stack. Why do I not like ETN? He's kind of overrated in every possible metric. Let's look at some numbers here. So the biggest thing for me is that number one, his team has said for now 2 straight years they don't want to give him the workload he's had, and they're showing it again. And then they made another draft pick with Keelan Robinson to get in somebody else in case Tank Bigsby doesn't work out. So that's the first bad sign. The second part of it is that again they want to try Tank Bigsby again. I don't think Tank is great, but like if you think Tank Bigsby is a solution for giving ATN less work, it's not a great reflection on ATN. Let's make this pick here. Keep ourselves alive for another double stack, I guess. And we'll go Jordan Addison here. So we have the Minnesota double, the Chicago double. Could realistically take all 3 QBs if we want, but with Minnesota being an ambiguous QB situation right now, probably inclined to not take the QB currently, even though I like JJ McCarthy. I think Darnold, if he played all year, would be okay enough, but I don't trust either of those outcomes yet. So for ATN, last year, 16.5% avoided tackle rate is not that great. Again, especially for a guy whose whole thing is that he's got all the juice in the world. He doesn't really have that much juice. Per rush, a negative 0.12 EPA. Per pass, 0.13 EPA. So he did okay in the pass game. Overall, though, the team was intending to give him a touch. Only 39.6% of the time he's on the field, which is low for like a bell cow back. There's a lot of things for ATN. I just think to me, he's more of like he's not a Rashad White. He's better than Rashad White, but like he's closer to Rashad White than he is Williams, Achane. Like those guys were great. ATN's like, to me, the most just a guy who goes in that range. I mean, again, he's not efficient with either. He's also like, I don't really need to dwell on. I feel like I'm doing the Adam thing. Adam pushes back. I need to just like really focus on it. The main thing for ATN is, again, he doesn't have the juice amount that you think. There's also a guy coming in Brian Thomas who's got tremendous red zone ability to be a guy that could take away some jump balls, can take away the touches. I guess you could make the case that the pass game, like having Brian Thomas out there as a lower target earner, maybe that opens more targets for ATN. But when you draft the back, we talked the second straight year about getting touches off the back. Like ATN probably in their perfect world is like a 15, 18 touch back. Like it's not where you want to be for a guy who's also not creating a ton of value with his plays. But I know there's people in there who love ATN. I'm just not going to be one of them ever. Okay. 1050. Kyron missed a month of the year. ATN did not. 1050. I think David Montgomery, a logical first pick off the board at running back. We're going to do that here. Obviously, this correlate with our pick of Brandon Ayuk a little bit, but also Montgomery, to me, the ideal guy to start as your RB run or to have as your second RB off the board. So we're going to do that. Let's give the team a read here. We have a 1150. We have Lamar Jackson, David Montgomery, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, the Chicago double with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, and the Minnesota double with Jordan Addison. So we're live to get some stuff late to correlate for week 17. The Baltimore part of it, I just wish I didn't take Lamar. I hate that always ends up being the case for me, but I wish I didn't take Lamar. I think the team would have been a little bit more loaded with something else if I didn't do that, but it is what it is. What am I currently? I don't think I have a share of ATN. I can't be more clear. I'm not an ATN guy. Yeah, I don't have a single ATN anywhere post-draft. Probably have one pre-draft, but I do not post-draft. I don't believe in him. I don't. I'm willing to believe in the Jacksonville offense, but the Jacksonville offense, the way I believe in them is like that they start passing over expectation more, which would also be bad for ATN. So like to me, there's no win for me with ATN. It's not one of my guys. Has not been for a while. There you go. Chunk appreciates the team read. I appreciate being an audio listener. That means you're probably paying for YouTube Premium, which I think is one of the best premium products in the business. I pay for YouTube Premium as well. No ads, and you can lock your phone and listen to audio. Those are like the two biggest wins, even though they don't feel like they should be worth like 15 or 20 bucks a month, whatever it is. Absolutely worth it. Even though I don't get any affiliate fees for you signing up for YouTube Premium, but if you are a regular YouTube watcher, I would greatly recommend it. ETN did miss 4 games and get phased out, or regularly have coaching staff say he needs load management. Kyron second in point per game, half-point PPR. Yeah, look, I think Kyron is a much different pick. If you're viewing ATN and Kyron is the same pick, like we're probably not going to agree on a lot. Now, I'm not saying it derisively. Like it's just I think ATN is one of the most like everybody wants him to be a thing every year. He's okay enough that you don't get spooked off of him. One year the bottom's going to fall out, and I don't know. It could be this year. Okay, 1150 here. Not going to reach for Caleb. I think we can get Caleb. I'm hoping we can get Caleb back, right? Because we're pushing Odunze guys on this side of the board. I think Swift makes sense of this bet as well. Really no other running back I would die to take over him. So Swift will be the pick here. I like Swift. I've been heavy Swift and BBM so far, so I've been trying to dial down my Swift exposure. But when you have a bet on Moore and Keenan Allen, and you also are at a 0 RB kind of build, Swift to me makes a lot of sense as the running back, because we're going to say that Swift is the goal line back, and hopefully he will be. The Swift, already seeding some touches in practice with the first team. 2 guys like Khalil Herbert. I didn't see Roshan doing anything, but Roshan just might not have done anything. But Herbert's been in the mix with the first team for some passing plays I saw on Twitter. So maybe that's something. ETN 16.6 points per game, Kyron 21.2. ETN was also RB6 in points per game. I don't look, I'm not going to debate the points per game stuff. I think the point really is that like the difference between him and if I had to guess, the difference between him and RB, I don't know, like a much lower drafted RB. Like let's say we compare ATN to Jalen Warren. Like you're probably getting a similar range of outcomes. You're just not getting the 130-point game that ATN seems to have in a given year. Before the team realized that they don't want to use him as much as they do. Like a lot of his best games ATN had last year were, again, where the team wanted to use Bigsby, couldn't trust Bigsby. Then they went back off of ATN again when they were like, we could trust these other guys enough here, where they worked in, was it Hasty last year? But they worked in, like Dearness Johnson, they worked in, I think it was Hasty. They worked in like enough guys again because they just don't want to give ATN that work. Like they can't be more clear about not wanting to give ATN the work, and people are just, you want to make the case for him. You got to listen to the team and what they're telling you. Especially when it's a no case. Like teams never give the no case for things. And when Jacksonville's aggressively giving the no case over and over and over again, like you got to listen, I think. Like ATN should be priced in the 50s. If he's priced in the 50s, more palatable. He was going to the mid 30s at one point in BBM. Like, no, thank you. 40 closer, but still no, thank you. He's the tier break. Like it's top 7 guys. And then, and plus Saquon and then a big tier break, and ATN is like the tier. But we'll see. Of course, as we always say here, everybody's takes is valid in June, July, and August. We'll all know when the season starts, but come by those takes very earnestly. I will say that. All right, 1250 here. Done a good job starting to dig out of the hole at running back. Pushing Caleb to 118 feels risky with the Odunze drafter on that side. So we'll just take Caleb here. Not going to be a Jaden Daniels team. There we go. We've done it, boys. 2250. We have Lamar and Caleb Williams at QB. No conflicting buys there. David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift at RB. No conflicting buys there. Wide receiver, we have the Minnesota double with Jefferson and Addison. We have the Chicago double with Moore and Allen. And then we have standalone value for Ayuk, though he is correlated with David Montgomery. And we have no tight ends yet, so we got to make up a tight end. Isn't the thing with RBs 4 to 15 that we all wish they were cheaper? I wouldn't say 4 to 15. I think that like McCaffrey appropriately priced, Bijan appropriately priced. Breece Hall, I do have more at 10, but I wouldn't be mad at that. Gibbs, I would push more to here, but I think like these guys, Taylor, Gibbs, Barkley should all go in the second round. Achane and Kyron now, because of the quote-unquote risk with them, I think they're good as the third. I don't mind Henry as the third either. Like, I think he's appropriately priced. ATN, though, should fall. ATN should fall to 50 and should be around Pacheco, Jacobs, and those guys. And then I personally think Mixon should come up. Markets don't agree with that. But I honestly, I think the fourth round shouldn't have a running back right now. If it does have one, it should be Derrick Henry. I think Henry and Jacobs are very similar bets, though Henry probably doesn't have as much of a direct lever against him like Jacobs does, where like Marshawn Lloyd's like a direct lever against Jacobs. Henry, it's like Justice Hill or Rasheen Ali. Rasheen Ali is a lot more like Henry, so he's probably the direct backup. Justice Hill is okay. Uh, 2250 here. Take a third QB with Brock Purdy. We're not going to do that. I think Gus Edwards is okay for this team. We just need a running back. We have a pretty strong top 5 receiver, 5 receivers in the top 70 picks. Going to go Gus here. Don't mind a play on Eckler either, but Gus the higher ranked guy for me. So we're now at 3 running backs. We'll continue to hit the position for a little bit, I think. Were we having convos about being concerned? I wasn't. I was saying that the markets will knock him down, but I would scoop Kyron up. I don't believe you should be concerned about Kyron's foot, given that they've already said we're holding him out as precaution, and now he's actually doing work on the sidelines and running and cutting and stuff. So no, I don't think we should be worried about Kyron, but like if you want to be worried about it, you can. You kind of have to follow the market. That is the principle of everything. You kind of have to follow the market. There are times too where people, again, who are signing up for the Spags rankings, you get by hitting the join button down below for $4.99 a month. You're getting the rankings. You can see that I moved. At one point, I had AR and Caleb and CJ Stroud, excuse me, right next to Lamar Jackson. I had them right behind him because I think that's where they should be valued. That said, the markets don't agree with that. They ended up knocking Stroud and AR down. So like I then moved Stroud and AR down to a point where you're still getting them a little bit ahead of ADP if you want to take them there. But also, like, you know, it does reflect the markets. Reflecting the markets is like the important part. So, like, if I talk about Kyron's foot injury stuff, it's not because I'm worried about it. And I try to spell that out specifically. But, like, I think the Kyron foot worry stuff is one of the stupidest things that should drive an ADP down right now. It's just markets overreacting because they saw a blurb on RotoWire or whatever, you know. Like, that's the thing to me that you don't want to do. You want to be aware of things the team is saying. You want to be aware of, like, intent where, oh, this guy's running with the first team. Keon Coleman with the first team. It's like, oh, that's a good sign for Keon Coleman. If Coleman moves down to the second team, then that's an intent thing. If Keon Coleman, you know, has like a foot injury and is out of practice for 2 days and they're like, he's going to be fine, and he comes back in 2 days, like you shouldn't have knocked Keon Coleman down. So I think that's really, you know, using a guy that's not suffering from foot injury as the case there. But that's the main point to me. Like, and what your job is as a drafter is like what matters and what doesn't matter. I would say precaution with a foot matters less. AR having to take a day off of practice and then throwing with his left arm in practice, that spooks me a little bit more, but it is still, you know, part of the recovery. He's not 100% yet, even though they may have said he was 100% errantly. More concerned about Corum taking touches or Bigsby? Bigsby can take 40% of that workload. He's not good, but he could take 40% of that workload. Corum's not going to do that. And I also don't think Corum's that talented either. So that's the, you know, the other side of that. Not that Bigsby is, but like, I don't like ATN. I think Bigsby's okay enough that he could take some from ATN. Corum is like, he's going to take it, I think, if we see an injury go to Kyron. So we have a 2-3-5-0 here. I mean, we have the bet on Baltimore, and we don't have great correlation for it yet. So we'll just take the Oppo tight end with Dalton Schultz to shore me up there. I do like Schultz. He might still be my highest exposed tight end. We'll find out at the end of this video. But Dalton Schultz will join in as a bring back for Lamar. So we have Lamar unstacked with Caleb Williams at QB. We have David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, and Gus Edwards at RB. We have the Minnesota double with Jefferson and Addison, the Chicago double with Moore and Allen, of course, with DeAndre Swift as well. And Brandon Ayuk is a wide receiver core. And at tight end, we have Dalton Schultz. So I like how this team shook out. I think could have maybe pushed the advantage more at receiver. But I think our RB room will be better for this. The big thing for me is the Lamar part. I think if we had taken a receiver there, could have still had a good RB room, could have still had a good QB room without Lamar. And Lamar now I have to like tack guys on to make the correlation work. And I don't know. Not my favorite thing to do. Do you see Mixon and Cook jumping ATN and Sheet? I would rank them ahead of him, but the markets don't support it. So ATN will stay ahead as long as the markets are there. But like, I don't have I can just see my rankings on the screen, I guess. I don't have my full doc in front of me. But I've got ATN at 44. I've got Mixon at 55, but that's where the market has him. I've got Cook at 56. I do think Mixon's a better play than Cook. The markets disagree with me there by a little bit. But yeah, that's basically what I would do if I were not fully market conscious is I would just go like, yeah, like Mixon should be ahead. But that's like a slippery slope for rankings, for at least from how I feel about them. And if I start ignoring the market everywhere, like that's not a good product to put out to people because I don't want to subject people to my whims versus the market. But I think if you identify like, oh, Spags is low on ATN and higher on Mixon and with the field on Cook, like that should sort of tell you like how this goes. Like scoop ATN if he's a value. But, you know, I wouldn't like go up and get ATN ever, personally. What are my thoughts on the recent Brevin Jordan love coming out of Houston? Wasn't the love just a quote saying he's like, okay, you know, like a good player? I don't know. Brevin Jordan, to me, I don't have a lot of thoughts on. I don't think he should be drafted. They brought in Cade Stover, who they also like. And Stover was good enough in college that I think he's eventually going to probably come for Dalton Schultz's job. So that's basically the bet to me. I don't think Brevin Jordan's a player to have. Maybe 20th round in DraftKings as a tight end 3. Marshawn Lloyd goes, which would have been a fucking nice pick to have in this draft. Because of the bet we have on Minnesota, a bring back that I like a lot at running back would have been helpful. But Lloyd goes 138 here. I don't like Nick Chubb at his ADP generally. I'm not a big Hawkinson drafter because you're losing half the year for him. Ugh, I fucking hate this, man. I'm going to take Jerome Ford. I'm not going to take Nick Chubb at any point in the draft, honestly. And especially in this kind of RB room where, as an RB4, I don't want to lose out on a month, if not more, for Nick Chubb, recovering from that ACL injury. Catastrophic knee injury, really. Yeah, you got me. It's Ford. I'm not going to make another product for the $5 a month we get. But I don't think it's productive, no. I don't think it's helpful because of the fact that it just would be so far off of market, and I don't want to put people that far off of market. Like, I believe a lot in my ability to player take and to use data to find things out, and again, the news gathering and all that. I still think fundamentally, like we all, no matter how good you are at that, you all have to bend at the altar. You have to bow at the altar of just what market data is. So I'll still like grade guys. Like I do grade guys relative to the markets, and I'll say like this guy shouldn't be or this guy should be. But like I don't want to make you guys take Terry McLaurin ahead of Pickens and ahead of Higgins. Like I don't think that's good for you. But obviously, you know, you can do what you want on your own personal choice when you look at what I say about these guys, and I think that's the value, hopefully. But I don't want to get too wild off of market. Yeah, that'd be the thing. Is like Jaden would legit be. He's got a 103 ADP on him right now. I would have Jaden going like where he should go for his ceiling, at the very least ahead of Burrow's ADP. And frankly, like he'd probably be for me ahead of like Worthy and some of these guys were kind of shit in this range. So like I couldn't do that to people. Is it? Agnostic rankings. Yeah, look, if there were a world where I thought it would add value, I would agree. But you're still better off like playing to the markets to a good amount of extent and then, you know, maneuvering around that when you can. Okay, we have a 2, 4, 5, 1 here. We have to keep the lights on for Baltimore stacks. Fucking Bateman comes up soon, right? Oh, God, I hate Bateman so much. Can I push Bateman to 163? I hope I can. I think Kmet looks better for this team. Chandler also looks better for this team. I'm going to go Chandler. Didn't get Lloyd, who would have been a much better pick as an oppo correlation, but instead we'll increase the bet on Minnesota, possibly without the QB. So we have Ty Chandler as RB5. Team so far a 2-5-5-1. Lamar and Caleb Williams at QB. David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, and Ty Chandler at running back. Wide receiver, we have Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Jordan Addison. And at tight end, we have Dalton Schultz. So it's a well-balanced team. We hit wide receiver early. We've gone to running back. Just need the Lamar correlation, and unfortunately need Bateman to come back, and we'll see if that happens. He wants to reduce the workload by a little bit, not like I can't debate this with you, Adam. Like it's really getting exhausting. But it's not the same thing. Even the way the way they speak about it is not the same either. They want to take some pressure off of Kyron, which probably means like 10% of touches. For Bigsby, they've shown a chance or desire to give him like a 50% workload. That's not the same situation. Just because you like ATN doesn't make it a different situation. I'm surprised ATN's not a Georgia guy, but it's basically it. Please die on the hill of ATN. I hope more of you do. Bateman goes. Oh, I can't even get fucking Rashad Bateman at ADP. I can't get anything fucking normal today at ADP. It's so brutal. Fuck. Hate the Bateman steam so much. Really. Like, what is this guy's bet? What's Troublesome's bet? No bet on Houston. Bets on Philadelphia. Unstacked Philadelphia. Unstacked Dallas. Motherfucker, man. You want to see the flip side of rando draft rooms? We're getting it. Get ready to learn Tez Walker. What if Nelson Aguilar is the guy you need? Look, both are entirely possible. And I do like Tez Walker more as a player, but if I'm fucking taking Lamar unstacked, getting scooped on Andrews, I would like to get the one player here in Bateman that makes sense. But troublesome is indeed troublesome in the 12 hole. Just freewheeling out there. He does. He does blow. He does blow. Oh, the trade-offs of these drafts. I mean, at this point, Komet's as big of a screaming value as we've had. We have the big bet on Chicago. We're going to go with the Chicago Alpha, I guess, besides Romo Dunze. So the team is going to be a Chicago quadruple with Caleb. We have two QBs here, a 2-5-5-2 build. So again, we have to go back to wide receiver at some point. But when you hit wide receiver as hard as I did here, where it was 5 picks in the top 70, like that is a bit of a draft capital allocation thing, draft bucket allocation thing we got to do. Lamar, Caleb, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Ty Chandler, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, and a tight end, big old discount on Cole Kmet. And we have Dalton Schultz leading the room there as our Week 17 bring back for Lamar. And possibly the only correlation I'm going to have for Lamar in this draft based on how it's going so far. Likely might not be so bad. They could become a Gronk Hernandez spot. Well, who's committing the murder is question number one. Question number two would be, I don't know. But they are talking more about 12 personnel. Honestly, I think there's a little bit of a 12 personnel trend coming in the NFL this year based on how many teams are talking about it. Teams like Vegas drafting to have 12 personnel as a part of their regular rotation of formations we're going to do. So that's something that they've said that apparently a lot more they've been practicing this year of having both guys on. And at Georgia, Todd Monken did have a lot more of the two tight end sets. There's something that Adam can speak to. But there's a lot of two tight end sets with Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers when both guys were there. So maybe that's something that Monken wants to get more of, but didn't feel like he could do last year. I'm not really sure. There we go. Adam coming through the thing that we just said. He knows. Like there's a great leverage pack when you miss out on Andrews. I suppose. It's like you're paying a price tag for Andrews missing time in the past. And the pathway for time for likely is going to be tougher if they're not running a lot of 12 personnel. Like you do need Andrews to not be there for him to have the real ceiling. If they run a lot of 12 personnel, the situation changes a little bit, but I don't know if they're going to do it that much. All right, 2-5-5-2. Gotta add more talent at receiver. That's not a surprise. All right, I'm going to go Michael Wilson. I think I see what I can do for one more Week 17 correlation. Hopefully this room will give it to me, even though the room has not given me much. But we're going to take our man here, Michael Wilson, and we will see what we do on the way back. I'm starting to realize too that even in rooms where I don't know the names necessarily, or I don't know the people who are Splash Play regulars, I've observed that perhaps I've tipped a few picks and then people have then scooped them. So I have to be more mindful about tipping my picks. Just the adjustment here to all these things. Because of people knowing my name and then knowing too that they can hop on a stream. If they see my name in a draft room, they can also find out who I'm going to pick in drafts. Probably something that people will take as a micro edge. So I have to be a little more cognizant, I suppose. Better off with all of you in the drafts in this crowd today. Look, I'll take my shot with randos. I still stand by that. Having seen the alternative for long enough, it's no disrespect to you guys. It's just like we're all better off for it. Like the pod part being the biggest part of it. Again, on drafters, which we'll do tomorrow, it matters a little bit less. Fucking, I can't get DeMarcus Robinson back either. Wanted to take an Arizona Rams, DeMarcus Robinson, Michael Wilson correlation, just because of the fact that I like both guys as prop ups on a wide receiver room that, you know, for the late part of a draft, because we did skip wide receiver for a lot of picks there. We basically went 100 picks without a receiver. So I wanted to get a week 17 correlation with two guys I like in Wilson and in Robinson. That's not going to happen. And Ben Sinnott is free in this room, of course. What a fucking situation. Let's just get Tez Walker before one of these fucking dick bags takes him too. Tez Walker normally going to pick 200 or reaching for him, which doesn't matter at this point in a draft too much. It does matter if you're reaching for like an undrafted guy, like a Bo Melton. Would it matter a little bit more if I took, let's say, Nelson Aguilar here? Tutu, yeah, Tutu is live. Tutu is live. I love soft rooms. I love soft rooms too. Just didn't really get values in this room, or the other room, honestly, which is really the big thing. Like, I never get values when we have regular drafts. Like, that's the biggest part where it's a bunch of people because you guys know to scoop up values. When you have rando rooms, you do tend to get a shot to scoop up value more. But both these rooms today, there was just like no fucking discounts in the room. And anything that was a discount was almost like a trap. Even Lamar at ADP was like a trap for me. We have a 2-5-7-2 build, though. We have Lamar and Caleb, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, and Ty Chandler. Still probably need one more running back there. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Michael Wilson, and Tez Walker. Could add one more on. Could be done there. Tight end, Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet. Not the most exciting. I love Schultz's touchdown equity potential, and a Houston offense is going to have a lot more important targets to cover. But Tez Walker, and we got correlation. That is what it is. It's correlation with Baltimore. Yeah, Kmet was a discount, but the Kmet discount happens so often, especially if you corner the market on Chicago. No, they're still doing the Kyron thing, huh? Just please keep doing the Kyron thing. Have fun with it. I don't wish to talk about it anymore. It's Kyron to me. I can't even get third tight end Isaiah Likely. Oh boy. Don't think I was going to take Likely, but would have been nice to have it as an option. This room. All right, we're going to take the best pick in a draft right now, which is not Roshan Johnson, especially given that we have DeAndre Swift in this team. Best pick in a draft at ADP, Tank Bigsby, the guy who's going to take all of ATN's workload this year. He'll be our RB6. Oh, John, who does correlate with Ford. That's true. We'll see what we need more when we come back around, or I guess what's more appealing, wide receiver, tight end. But we have hit 6 running backs, so that's ideal for a 0 RB build. We have Lamar and Caleb at QB. Once again, give the team a read. David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Ty Chandler, and Tank Bigsby. We have Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Jordan Addison. It's a really good top 5 at receiver, and the RB room is good, or good enough, rather. Maybe Bigsby would be the fall off there. But I think I just needed correlation, and I needed the guys to align at their ADPs. Wilson, Walker are at wide receiver, and Schultz and Kmet at tight end. Do we like ATN at 50? Yes. Is Noah Fant available? No. We just went here at 192. I did trigger the ATN stands. I did see that. I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of dislikes here too on the video because people will go, he doesn't like the guy I like. He's presenting a take I don't agree with. Like, please don't dislike videos for that reason. I'm not calling you stupid for your beliefs, but just like there's a lot of signal to say ATN, maybe not the guy, is all I would say. When you make the heavy bet on Addison and Jefferson, why take Caleb when you have Lamar and just wait for McCarthy to finish QB? Because I don't have the confidence that McCarthy at this point of the year is going to be the guy all year long, or even in week 17. Team starts hot, and the team can start hot, especially with concentrated targets going to Jefferson and Addison. Like, it can be Darnold that starts the year, and Darnold looks good in camp. Darnold exclusively running with the ones right now. So, like, to me, like, Vegas right now is a bet. I don't want to make it on QB because I just don't believe, like, either Minshew or O'Connell, I don't have a lean. For Darnold and McCarthy, I think McCarthy should start year one. I think Minnesota's smart enough to do that. I don't have the faith right now with what they're showing with how McCarthy's being used, which is largely second team work. As we get into July and August, I'll go back there, but I think at this point of a year, You kind of have to follow signal, and I don't want to draft Darnold either because it's not the highest likelihood that Darnold's going to be playing in week 17, though he can be. Like, if Minnesota wins a lot of games, they're competitive in the North, Darnold probably holds on to the job all year, much like the New England situation. All right, so 2672 here. Baltimore. Oh, my God. Look, if we're ever going to do it in a draft, I think it's a draft to do it. Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver 8. Come on down. He does have random 2-touchdown games. I don't think he's a good play. He's not going to like beat ADP over the course of a year. But we'll take him. So he finished with a 2-6-8-2 build. Maybe could have gone with 7 running backs and gone Justice Hill instead, who does have some pass game work, at least till Keaton Mitchell comes back, likely after missing 2 months. But we have Lamar and Caleb Williams at QB, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Ty Chandler, and Tank Bigsby at RB. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Michael Wilson, Tez Walker, and Nelson Aguilar, very low-owned Nelson Aguilar, and Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet at tight end. Likely, I think I would have taken over, I would have been brave enough to take Isaiah Likely over Nelson Aguilar as a third tight end. We didn't get that luxury, though, so there we go. Drop this baby just like Aguilar. Hey, Aguilar's cut some touchdowns. He's caught some. It's an Aguilar team. Yeah, we're doing great. All right, let's look at exposures here. The draft just got completed, so let me see if I can refresh to get all of them. That was draft number 41 for me on the year. Okay, we're missing one draft. Let me see if I can just refresh to get it. Come on, give me 42. I only drafted one $5 team. The rest are BBM teams before we look at exposures. And of course, we will do the reading of names coming up in a minute here. All right, I can't get him to load the last draft. So my exposures, not including the last draft, we've got Jaden Daniels in half the teams, which, as I've mentioned, at some point, we're going to dial that back closer to 33% for him, especially if the ADP rises. It's going to be easier to do that, but the ADP is holding steady, and I am not going to do anything different besides take Jaden Daniels. Number 2 is Marshawn Lloyd. Couldn't get him in a draft room here, but we're doing okay. 45% of him so far. Again, these are not going to hold for me. I'm not one of those people that believes in having 50% exposures overall. But for me right now in a draft, it's a bet that I feel really comfortable with that I know people don't, so I'm going to keep making it. Ben Sinnott, same thing. Terry McLaurin, same thing. So for a question earlier from Adam, if I had to guess, we're probably around 40% of my portfolio right now has McLaurin, has Sinnott, has Jaden. Let us pray with that in mind. Brian Robinson is number 5 for me, 37.5%. So the bet's on Washington. If you watch the streams, like, you know, like this, I'm not saying anything here that you're going to be surprised by. Hey, this alone, I'll always read the chat. Fuck the Jeremys of the world. I agree. But also fuck these random guys that are not Jeremy and also made the draft room terrible. But we did okay. Jaden Daniels, Will Levis is number 2 for me right now. I like cheap late QBs though, so I get it. It makes sense for me. To me, you're always going to do better. And actually, Hayden Winks has some good data saying you functionally should never take your QB2 until round 15 to 18, based on BBM's first 4 years of data, which I think is interesting. Check out Hayden's recent tweets if you want to see that. But he basically is saying like you shouldn't be taking your QB2 until later. I'll take 2 QBs in like the top 150 picks easily, but I think when you are getting later on in a draft, taking Levis, taking Nix, guys right now who are secured a starting job, unlike the Vegas QBs, unlike the Minnesota QBs, once those guys secure starting jobs, I'll take them more, I think, depending who's starting, but that's really how I feel about that. Nix as well at 15%. Obviously, Nix has been coming down for me. Richardson, AR, also 15% here. All right, and then Jalen Hurts for me is number 5, tied with Caleb, tied with Kyler Murray. I mean, honestly, this doesn't surprise me. These are my bets. I would have thought Stroud I could have a little bit higher, but Stroud gets sniped enough. That's going to be the case. But I don't know. I feel the most strongly about these guys, and they're my highest exposed. So that's it. We got Marshawn Lloyd. You just saw him 45% overall. Brian Robson, 38%. I don't know where Eckler is for me, just out of curiosity. Yeah, I've got Eckler at 10%, so both guys above the field. I think the Washington backfield is like Miami's to some extent last year, where you got Eckler, you got Robinson. I would try to take one of them, and I wouldn't say every draft, but in most drafts if you can. David Montgomery, James Conner, Audric Estime. I've been dialing back Estime, so he's still at 25%. I think he's still got the best late round Kyron Williams potential, but we're not going to know until we get to July. So at this point of the draft cycle, I would say take him less unless you're just dead at RB and need an RB6 or an RB7. Bucky Irving would be the real number 4 here because all these guys are tied at 25%. And Zeke is tied for my real number 5 with Chase Brown, with Ray Davis. 0 RB portfolio here. And we are above the field on McCaffrey. We got 10% McCaffrey. under the field on Brees, if I had to guess. We got 1 share of Brees so far, and I would guess with the field on Bijan. No, over the field on Bijan. So nothing surprising there. And I don't think I have a share of Gibbs yet. Yeah, no Gibbs yet. Got the bet on Montgomery. Not going to take the bet on the Gibbs that heavy. All right, so wide receiver here. We've got Terry McLaurin, Troy Franklin, Luke McCaffrey, Nico Collins, and then Keenan Allen here, who is tied for number 5 with Drake London. So I'm actually surprised I've gotten that much Drake London because he doesn't fall to me too often. But McCaffrey, the big bet here. Obviously, when I'm not getting Jahan Dotson earlier on, not getting McLaurin, and I have Jaden, I do take McCaffrey. My Dotson exposure come up enough now. So we are officially overexposed to all the parts of Washington. Besides, of course, the big winner, Zach Ertz, is going to beat me, I'm sure. And the rest of the team, you can see here, a lot of Zay Flowers. I take discounted Zay a good amount. Whenever he is at a discount in a room, I'm going to take him. And Rondale Moore, I'd like to get closer to 12%, but it's early, so we're not worried about that. Tight ends, most exposed, Ben Sinnott. We saw him before, 43%. Number 2 is Dalton Schultz, 27.5. Number 3 is Trey McBride at 22.5. He's the elite tight end I like the most, the one who comes up the most regularly at where I'm drafting. Laporta, I would prefer as a play, but we saw here, can't really push him down a draft board too far. Jonnu Smith, I have a good amount of. He's tied for number 4 with me with Brock Bowers. Bowers, I haven't taken in a while, but I did go heavy Bowers in the beginning of drafts. I'll be happy to take him again, but he's just not aligning for me in ADP. And I also, again, don't know which QB is going to start, so that does limit me a little bit there. And we have Jatavian Sanders, Sam Laporta closing out my tight ends at number 5. So that's my exposures right now. Of course, they're going to move every week. Shout out to our guy, Sammy, here at the $2 super sticker. I appreciate that. Appreciate all you guys being members here of the channel. That's the video, guys. So we have another draft coming up tomorrow, and we still have the reading of names coming up here, but please do subscribe down below. Hit the like button, leave a comment. All the things help me out a bunch here. No matter what you feel about your takes, no matter what you feel about mine, I'm going to defend mine here. I'm going to explain them here. I'm also going to hear yours and try to understand the best I can where you're coming from, and we'll try to meet somewhere in the middle. But that's like the premise here at Splashway. Don't get scared off because I'm saying something you don't believe in right away. We'll talk about the why of that, and if you feel differently, then cool. Like, that's the thing we have different amongst us. That's what makes this fun. That's the whole point of the thing, is you should have different takes than me to some extent. But of course, follow along the journey here. Hit the like button, leave a comment on that march now to 4K subs. And it'd be great to hit it, but ultimately, you know, it is what it is. Underdog, promo code SPLASH, shoves $250 in bonus cash on there. The best deposit match in the business is going on Underdog. So for some reason you watch these streams, you haven't given a shot to Underdog yet, do it right now and go use the promo code SPLASH. You get $250 in bonus cash right now. Probably is my baby if you want to make money in sports betting, in particular to build your bankroll for best ball like I did last year, where I paid my entire freight for DraftKings off of just what we were doing with an earlier version of Probably's model. You can do that as well. Probably.com/subscribe. Promo code SPLASH on there gets you half off a month or a year, and your support does go a long way on there as well. We're trying to get funding, trying to get that, trying to make it into a real company first and foremost. But the data is top notch, 12 to 20% ROI on the underlying API. So you'll get a shot to pan for gold as best you can. That's really the goal of any of these betting data apps when you're using market data, is to have a shot to get in good bets regularly. Another home run hit yesterday too with the Probably video that we did on that channel. Stochastic, 15% off, promo code SPLASH. And tomorrow, we're going on Drafters. So if you want to draft me, go sign up now. Use the promo code SPLASH on Drafters, up to a $100 in deposit match there. And the best rake back in the biz as well for the $15 Drafters Millie, where they're giving you up to 7 entries if you put in 100 in that draft. And if you just put in 10, you get a free entry as well. And $100 back if you max it out. So check it out for yourself on Drafters and support them too, because they do directly support the show, including me, enough to make me do a show on Saturdays, which we'll do tomorrow. All right, reading in names here. We got the new member from Nez, who I don't know who that was, but if you guys want to be on this list, as well as getting 10 team reviews a month for me, also VIP Discord, and also my rankings, which get updated every week and will be updated either tomorrow or Sunday. That's what you get as part of this here. So hit the join button down below for $4.99 a month. Supports me as a solo proprietor here, trying to make it work. And YouTube may shock you to hear, YouTube doesn't pay the big money when you do niche content for a couple hundred people per video. We have Robert Griffin the Turd, Historical Anomalies, Matthew Emerson, Tyler, CLN, Mathology, Rupesh, Willis, Ivan Black, Port, Tony Mark, aka Io, Brandon Wagner, Consigliere, Aaron D, Nez. Shout out to Nez, doing a stream right now, I believe. Go top off this one and check that one out as soon as we're done here. Jake Twitchell, fucking Alpha, Mr. I am the KY, Buffalo War Pigs, Kevin Castro, Lateralis, Legible Connoisseur, Short Gamer, Carlos, Chunk, Gabe Davis, Bindles, King of Kings, Nolan, Thomas. Is Triple H joined the channel? I missed it. Thomas Schultz, Spurious News, Lace Jesus, also, I guess, I heard those. Laces out, Jay Strez, Jeff F, Christopher, Craig Beebe, Hoosier Devo, Jason Neff, Michael Thomas, Bodybag Jones, Jaden, Kyler, Wounded Geese, Jeff T, Jonathan W, Steel City Blue, W for Omega, Tanner Wise, Benjamin May, C40, Mike Robb, Artillery Frost, Tyler, Best Ball Moderate, Ben Bauer, Mike Rickle, D Owens, Space Donut, Meatwad, OG1 Kenobi, Kyle Zoof, getting Zoofed once again here, feeling moosey, Nick Stevens, DQ, Touch a Green, Justin Dupengeiser, Eric Macklin, Byborg, that's it. Adam, Mr. Poopy Butthole, Dylan, T-Wis, Tim Souders, Dylan Courts, Broncos, Joe the Show, Rough Buff Fire, Kurt Buswell, Vaporware, Kevin McElroy, Josh Klein, You Talk Sports, Matt Hartman, Best Ball Brian, Bob Hale, M. Ryan Dolan, Garrett Ketchum, even though I love his brother Ash, I'm glad to see Garrett's here, and STL, Bree 101, an independent thinker. You've all helped me put on the show this week, and I'm going to do a bow. I don't mean to be... Thank you. This kind of bow. That's better. That kind of bow. It works better. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. And no matter what you do, don't draft Travis Etienne, aka gamble responsibly. That's what we're trying to do here every day. And I'll be back tomorrow with drafters. So, hey, if you've got nothing to do on a Saturday, mowing the lawn, whatever, I'll see you then Saturday, 11 a.m. If not, enjoy your weekends, guys. I'll see you on Monday. Good luck. Bye-bye.